Bigfoot, aliens, the Loch Ness Monster. Many cryptids have been the subject of widely popular legends. But what does the state of Oklahoma offer to the realm of the cryptozoological? One may think a powerful thunderbird gliding over the plains, or perhaps hauntings from Native American burial grounds. But the most elusive of these alluring myths, a colossal red cephalopod that inhabits the lakes across the state, said to drag people beneath the surface and drown them.
My name is Jeff Provine, and I give ghost tours here in Central Oklahoma after gathering spooky stories. I was teaching English at OU and started wondering, are there some ghost stories here at OU? And so I started asking around. There are tons of stories. Oh my gosh, no shortage of professors coming back and visiting students, and there was the exorcism in 1973 when a student was being attacked. All kinds of crazy stuff. So I just kind of started collecting as much as I could and getting a lot of the disparate stories from all over, putting them in one place. So I started off with campus in 2009, and we did a little charity walk just during Halloween season. And 2009, a little bit bigger was 2010, 2011, and then we got in the news and had 150 people show up. So too big for a tour. And after that, started adding in tours for downtown Norman and downtown Oklahoma City. But with Lake Thunderbird, it's such a recent addition. It wasn't built until the 60s. So I think it kind of just gives another angle to it, because it's, a nice lake, you can go fishing and you go boating, and that's cool. But here's a spooky story about it and things. And I think that's kind of a fun spooky story, as opposed to when they find stray body parts out there and never have somebody claim them. Some people say it's mutants that's made its way up from the Gulf of Mexico and somehow adapted to freshwater and jumped into these artificial lakes. And like catfish and snakes, octopi can grow to the size their environment allows, and it's a fairly deep lake out there, so why not 6-foot-long ruddy red octopus? I'd say there's a really wide spectrum on the way people react. Some people are just like, oh, that's cute, and not buying into it at all. And then on the other side of the spectrum, people are like, I'm never going to that lake again. But I've talked to people who said they've not only seen it, but had altercations with it. I like to tell the story of the guy who, after a ghost tour, stopped me and said, hey, you were talking about that octopus and people say it and things. It actually attacked me. And so his story was he was out there tubing, and the boat pulled him around by the dam where the octopus is supposed to hang around, and turned the corner, and he let the rope slip, and his tube just kind of floated out there. And he's just waiting for the boat to come back, sitting around, and this tentacle comes out of the water, grabs his ankle, and starts tugging on him. So he kicks it off and manages to just stand up on top of the tube when the boat comes by and makes him take it back to shore, and to this day has not been back on the water. He always says, bring a cooler, you guys have fun out there, I'm staying here.
It's described as a giant octopus, reddish brown in color, the size of a horse. My name is J.A. Hernandez. I write a newsletter called Into Horror History that explores all sorts of strange phenomena around the world. So what really got me started on the idea of researching and writing about the Oklahoma octopus is, one, I really like the creature itself, octopus. This is something that my wife made way before writing about the Oklahoma octopus, actually. So I've always thought they're really intelligent creatures. And I think that some of these more local legends are really, really fascinating because there's not a lot of information out there about them, as is the case with the Oklahoma octopus. If the locals haven't heard of it, then how many other people in the world have heard about it?
Lake Thunderbird is a man-made lake which started construction in 1962. The lake is over 8 square miles in area and reaches a depth of 58 feet. Thunderbird, along with Lake Tenkiller and Lake Ulaga, are said to be the lakes in which the Oklahoma octopus dwells.
It's interesting to see a lot of these types of legendary creatures have folklore around it that claims that they're from Native American history. It's, and the same thing happens with hauntings and sometimes ghosts too. There's always a Native American burial ground or a legend that the Native Americans have. But the reality is that for the most part, it's very difficult to track down any source of information that points to a specific legend or a specific Native American tribe. Maybe it's true, but there's not enough information to really find the origin of it. But for the Oklahoma octopus, there really wasn't anything that connected an octopus legend with a Native American tribal legend. So the origin of it is interesting to trace, because I found some things, mentions online, and they kept leading me back to a television show called Lost Tapes. And the Lost Tapes is kind of like a mockumentary in a way, where they're exploring real legends and real pieces of folklore in different areas, particularly around the US, and dramatizing it, right? So they're telling you a story in a very dramatic fashion. In the Oklahoma octopus's case, it was an episode that I tracked down and watched about a group of teenagers that were exploring Ten Killer Lake, and they essentially got picked off one by one by a giant octopus at the bottom of the lake and eaten by it. So a lot of the information that I found pointed back to that.
Some people say they made it up for that, but then other people said no, they interviewed people and found a weird story and latched onto it. So who knows? People say it's an undiscovered creature from the flooded caverns underneath this eastern part of the state, the big sandstone formation, which we don't know what's down there. I've talked to several geologists who get really excited about it because we don't know. It's easily, they've mapped a lot of it, but you would have to drill down there to actually see if there are things living down there, which of course, in past years, people say, oh no, you get a few feet below the surface and there's no such thing. But once you start exploring caves, I mean, we've had axolotls, we've had blind salamanders, they've had fish, everything. There's so many creatures where we wouldn't think there are creatures. So who knows? And it's a big guy out there, if that's what you're saying. So people who would just kind of see the ruddy red tentacles going through the water and then disappear, yeah, I would believe that. I don't think you're going to see much more than that.
There are a lot of drownings that happen in Oklahoma lakes, and some say that those drownings are at a higher rate than the average, right? So it makes you wonder what's happening in those lakes. Is it an undertow, some very strong current? Is there something down there that's snatching people up?
When it comes to the supernatural, one must choose what is most important to them: the knowledge of the answer or the thrill of the question. While we may never uncover the truth surrounding the Oklahoma octopus, the legend lives on for as long as we choose to pursue the unknown.
I want to believe in the Oklahoma octopus. I want to believe that there's a giant freshwater octopus down there, because it's a cool idea to think about, that there's these creatures that are right under our noses and we have no idea that they're down there.